Hello. Happy pre-Halloween.
Hi. Just in case
I unmuted you.
Adam tried to scare me.
Yeah, I didn't do that this time. I'm a nice guy.
Thank you.
Happy pre-Halloween. We got a special
Ugh.
spooky countdown and a special orange background. And now we're here to discuss.
I look like a pumpkin.
It's part of the theme.
Yes.
Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz.
I like how we have so many different versions.
One
I will say
like a Kindle.
I got this version on Amazon because it was like the entire series. Plus, I told Christy this was crazy to do it. But I bought it was like all of these plus an extra like side story thing. So it was eight books for $35 or something.
Whoa!
Yeah,
what
it was
a deal.
crazy.
So who's here, Talia?
Kent is here, and apparently it's his birthday because Leanne just said happy birthday, Kent.
You have to do it in a minor key.
Good luck. So, nope, that sounds like a Lucas thing. And since he is currently traveling for work, I'm a sing it the way that it comes out of my mouth.
Happy birthday, Kent.
Hi, Giggles and Christopher, Tammy and Christopher, Novi and Christopher again. Hi, Randa and Stacy and Kelly and Bobby and Brandy and Carrie. Hi, Willa and Leanne and Alex and Judy and Rachel and Brandy Kelly. Hi, Kent, happy birthday, and Kira and Dan and Randa, Emily, Leanne, Stacy, Christopher, Randa, Bobby, Amanda, Bethany, Tim, Jody, Susan, Jennifer, Amanda, Carrie, Emily.
Yay!
I feel like I said hi to quite a few of y'all because you always start like talking to each other and saying hi and like being nice and friendly, which means I say hi to some of y'all like 6 times. Sorry.
Yeah, on YouTube, people can get in the waiting room on YouTube, and people are like, "Hey, how's it going? How's it going?" So,
yeah, my bad.
If you want to be in the cool club, everybody's in the cool club.
I was about to say, technically, by being in the club, you're in the cool club.
You're in the cool club, but over there on YouTube,
we get Dan and Alex makes a great point.
What?
Said we got Dan and Susan both. Does this mean is there going to be some dispute?
Their powers combined. Well, it is October, so this is technically our spooky light book. Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz.
Spooky light.
There's a lot of feelings about this book. I've noticed on the Facebook and on the Discord, people are I'm here to hear all of it.
Oh, Brandy, we're gonna spoil it so hard for you.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, Brandy.
It's like big time. Big time.
We can start with generalities, and then we'll go deeper in case you want to really just cram those chapters. They're short. They're like 4 to 5 minute chapters on the Kindle.
I did appreciate the chapters being short. I think it's funny that you say it's spooky light because this book made me really jumpy and also was very dark in different ways than I had anticipated. Since I already started, sorry, I'll just go ahead and get it out there and then y'all can take over. Because I don't have, I think, too many general things to say. I feel like I have more specific things about this one. One thing that I will say is I did this to myself. I'm pretty sure no one told me that this book was going to be like the Dresden Files or that the Odd Thomas books were like the Dresden Files. I don't think anyone actually said that to me, but in my head, I think I made that assumption for some weird reason. I think we were talking about it and maybe someone was more like, it's just got spooky elements or supernatural elements. And it's more like a mystery thriller. So in my head, I was like, ooh, a fun adventure. I love the Dresden Files. This is not the Dresden Files. It's not a fun adventure. It's so much darker than I was ready for. And I also think it scared me more. All of the not supernatural stuff is probably really what scared me the most about this book. I mentioned earlier, I bought the whole series just because it was like $35 to get the whole series. But this is not a binge series for me. It's just, I don't know what it would do to my brain to binge all something like this.
I can tell you, as someone who binge watched Dexter, it can F you up.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna. That being said, I mean, the book did hook me, but also, yeah, it wasn't what I expected. I wasn't really ready for it. It was so much darker and heavier and scarier in a way that I wasn't expecting. And Sean, thank you for that. Said, for what it's worth, don't ever read another book by this author, as the Odd Thomas are the most mild. Yikers. Good to know.
Old
So
Dean.
yes, so I will not be reading, knowing that. I do think I will, at one point in time, read the next one and see how I feel. I will not read any of his other books, knowing that. Thank you. And Christopher's comment, people comparing this to Dresden Files. It's not. Listen, there is some heavier stuff in Dresden Files, but Dresden Files at the end of the day is still a fun adventure, and this is not. This is, for something that's marketed as supernatural, it was too real. It was too real for me. Okay, I'm done.
I had no expectations going into this book. I'm not even sure I paid attention to any sort of summaries or blurbs or whatever that we may have had in advance. So I didn't know what this was. I'm not even really familiar with Dean Koontz. I've heard his name, but I always kind of put him in like this category of like well-known sort of pop writers, I guess, like John Grisham and James I don't know. He was always in that kind of like category for me. So like, oh, weird, a Dean Koontz book. Are we just gonna get like The Firm? And so I didn't even know that there was like, you know, he was like I see dead people detective guy that works with, you know, not a detective obviously, but like I didn't know any of this. So it was all kind of like, oh, interesting to me. I had no expectations of tone, so I was just kind of along for the ride. That being said, yeah, this book was dark. It was, but it was gripping. I would not classify this as like necessarily like a spooky, like there's some supernatural stuff in here and some bizarre like time travel, sci-fi, something happening that never came back to. But this was more of just like a crime thriller to me, and like a creepy, like psycho
It was
serial
scary.
killer style.
It was not spooky. It was scary.
I wasn't necessarily like there were some parts that kind of unnerved me for sure. Like, you know, like the usual stuff. But you know, like as someone who's watched things like Dexter and stuff like that with like, you know, it's not just serial killers as protagonists, but like even worse serial killers as antagonists. I was just like, oh, okay, we're going there. But it was, I will say that I, as much as you can, you know, as appropriate as it is for me to say, I enjoyed this book. I felt like it was a page turner for sure. There were some parts that I felt really slow. I felt like there were some parts that like took a long time to sort of get to the point. And I feel like there was a lot of certain aspects of the character development that both kind of came out of nowhere and also were kind of left off. And then there was some stuff towards the end that made me feel like, okay, we're rushing the climax here. But overall, without getting into it, it was fascinating. It was disturbing. It was gripping. And so it did make me feel many things. I read this mostly right before bed, so I think my dreams were a little messed up.
Oh no.
But But that's a sign of a good storyteller, I guess, or someone who can paint vivid imagery that you just would rather have not seen. Anywho,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I ended up really enjoying this book. This is one of the few books I've started and was able to get into immediately. Like normally it takes me like a couple of chapters to like warm up into a book for some reason. And I did not have that problem with this book. And I noticed, which was really interesting. I guess it's because I've had a lot of bad luck with starting books recently. This was not one of them. As far as spooky level, I was Emily Hare is a little bit up that one. The
she
Black
got to change her
Room.
name. It's Zodman now.
Yeah, the Black Room part creeped her out. That's the moment for me that like starting there and then for the rest of the book, there's like this sense of like dread and kind of foreboding that I felt like started with the Black Room and just kept going. Which I kind of enjoyed, feeling that. I feel like you were supposed to, and I thought a lot of the imagery was really interesting. Like not the with the Botox or however you pronounce it.
Those things were creepy.
They were super creepy. And I don't know, I thought it was really unique and interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
Dan says, for me, it's Odd himself who makes me love the book. Here you have a guy who's 20 and clearly intelligent, and his highest aspiration is to sell tires, not because he's a slacker or unmotivated, but because he feels he has no choice, that he's been gifted/cursed with a responsibility, and he has to sacrifice other ambitions because of it. And not in a martyr way, but in a very factual, this is what my life is kind of way. And I love that.
Yeah, I think Odd as a character made this interesting to me. Like I think.
Well, he's also the narrator. He was writing a book. This is his book that he wrote.
Yeah, for little Ozzy or whatever. Like it was these weird kind of quirky things about this person who can see dead people, but also like his aspirations and his like I'm a really good short order cook and like I make some good pancakes and like who he decides to like make friends with, and then you learn a little bit about his family, which is very upsetting.
Yeah.
It did make me want breakfast food.
Oh yeah, I wanted to try his pancakes.
He talked, about the fluffy pancakes and all the different types of eggs.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Kelly says made me want diner food for sure.
Kind of want to go to the Pico Grill or whatever it is. But yeah, he but like his characterization was fascinating, and seeing him kind of make his way through this story. I guess
sorry, I just read Bethany's comment and I forgot about it.
Yes, were we supposed to know? We knew this, right? We knew this.
I think he mentions it in the very, very beginning, doesn't he? If not, you're in so much trouble, Bethany.
I know. I put it on the screen.
It didn't occur to me that his book had been published and we were reading his published work. So to me, he's not dead, but I could totally see how you could absolutely see that.
Yeah. So
he says he said in the beginning, for reasons that will become obvious, this manuscript cannot be published during my lifetime, and my effort will not be repaid with royalties while I'm alive.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming since we're reading it, it's been published under the surname
Dean Koontz.
The pseudonym.
Well,
Dean Koontz.
But here's what we don't know. At the end of the 7th book, maybe it's like, and then he lived to be a very happy 103. Ta-da! Like, so I'm choosing to go that route.
Yes, 103.
Also, just because in my head I do picture him as like, I know a lot of people have said the Netflix movie was garbage, and I probably won't watch it. But I really liked that actor. And that was really sad.
So, how should we proceed through this? This is
No.
this is a lot of book. It's a lot of book for.
I
but-
mean, we got some questions from the live discussion
Um,
or from the topics
And
post.
we could
Oh
just-
gosh, English.
Ooh, I agree with Bobby. Yes. So I knew, right away from the beginning. He's like, hello, my name is Odd Thomas. Let me introduce myself. Here's what's most important about me. I love Stormy the most in the world. She's my soulmate. And I was like, okay, well, she's gonna die. Like that's what you do when you're introduced to someone and you say the biggest thing about them is how much they love someone. You know the author is going to take that person away from you.
yeah, Dean.
Well,
What the hey?
and I might have gotten that feeling from the beginning, but when she started insisting they get married immediately, it's like, oh, okay, there it is.
Classic.
Oh yeah, there was no way she was going to live through that.
Classic on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I don't know. I just feel like
Oh.
maybe you could have killed her a couple books in.
Meant to mention, we're going to start talking about spoilers.
Oops. Well, also you're here. Come
Okay,
on.
you knew what you were
Come
getting,
on.
but
She just finished.
oh good.
Oh god.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's
So-
the cry face.
We can just kind of work our way through this. So
Well, let's talk about Stormy and Stormy Llewellyn and Odd's relationship.
yes. Okay.
Could be a good place to start. I mean, he's like head over heels for her, and he's like just seems to have like the purest love, and he has eyes only for her. Like other women obviously don't even exist for him in that way. I loved how he talked about her, and I loved how he talked about her to other people. And I know he's writing this book, but it's pretty awesome what they had, even though it seemed also kind of flawed too.
So Dan says, okay, but remember, we're dealing with a world where we know there's life after death, and he has a connection to that existence. So that portion is not necessarily untrue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
I was.
still don't like it.
I knew it was going to happen, and it still like somehow got like blindsided me at the same time. Like I knew it was going to happen.
That's exactly what Emily said in that bottom comment.
Yeah, it was like, they kind of tried to pull the old switcheroo on you at the end when they're like so happy and they're together and they're avoiding the media and blah blah blah, and then they're like, hey, you gotta stop, you gotta let this go.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of, and this is a terrible comparison, but it's what popped into my head. For anyone who's watched Scrubs, there is a brutal, heartbreaking episode with Dr.
Brendan
Cox
Fraser.
and Brendan Fraser. Yeah. And that, no matter, I've seen that episode because I've watched Scrubs all the way through multiple times. And no matter how many times I see it, that episode will just gut me every time.
Where do you think we are?
Yeah, well, don't say it, Adam. God. But yeah, that's kind of what it made me think of. Just when your griefs, like the grief and the delusion, and just okay, but y'all know what I'm talking about anyway.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone knows that episode. So I guess just on a high level bird's eye, this is a story about a man who's trying to prevent a disaster. He's trying to prevent a disaster that he has envisioned, and slowly kind of realizes that it is not just a dream, but it is a premonition, right? Is that how that works? Like he saw this guy come into the grill surrounded by Botox,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, something's up with this. So I guess slowly he sort of puts the pieces together, and then it becomes about the dream that he had about the bowling alley. And then it becomes about him trying to prevent this man, Robert Robertson, comes from the original school of naming.
Matchbox 20 Boberson is what I called him in my head, like the whole book. Well, until just the first part, I guess.
AKA Fungus Man.
Boberson.
so they start kind of tracking him. He goes to this guy's house and he finds this weird ass time travel room, which was like, I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah,
We're
did
doing
not
this. And then
expect that.
And then that just ended up not being a thing after
Yeah.
a minute. It was the gateway to hell, I guess. Or what was the other version of it that actually sounded kind of cool in a weird way? It was like people from the future who was like,
Oh, that we're coming back to
become-
watch.
yeah, they become so like desensitized and like used to this, like coming back to be entertained by actual like horrific things. Which I was like, well, there's a premise
Yeah.
right there. But how did it I forgot, how did it end up becoming about the dream? It just kind of segued there. Like how did he go from just like this guy's a weird guy
Well, it was.
to, and like his fascination with serial killers?
What, you mean that he connected it to his bowling dream?
Yeah,
I think it was because of Viola.
because she had
the dream where she was shot in the head that she had asked him about in the cafe. And then I guess he got freaked out about Fungus Man.
This is serious, Christopher.
And then he went back and talked to her to get her to like really dig deep. And she saw the same uniform.
the green shirt and the khaki pants, which I will never wear. So that's when it became about, okay, I'm here to stop like a mass shooting from happening. And then it was just kind of a race against the clock. And what seemed like the longest nighttime ever.
Oh, yeah, he did a lot.
Yes.
Because he found the body in his bathroom.
Yep.
And then he took it away to the church of, what was it?
The church that used to be a church, and then it became a strip club or something. Plus strip club plus.
Yeah.
You get the subscription. And then but like, so this is one of the parts where I felt like a little bit that the story started to drag for me, because like the nighttime, all the stuff that was happening in the nighttime seemed to just go on and on and on forever. And like it's all building up towards like the middle of and then he's like, well, the bowling alley doesn't open till 1. And I was like, oh God, if time passes like this in the day. Then like,
The timeline of this book was kind of crazy. Like, I feel like we've read so many books that span, like, when's the last time we read a book that just spanned this, that so much happened within a short instance?
yeah, this was like over just like a day and a half.
Well,
pretty much.
yeah.
Well, until the end.
Until the end.
All of like the main action up until the sort of denouement. And the prostitute goes, yes.
Leanne's comment makes me sad.
Yeah.
It makes me feel things.
Yes, I think this is a possibility. I think
I think it's something he's going to beat himself up over for the rest of his life.
I think it's something that he has already beaten himself up over in the past as well. Like I think that he I like the idea of just the concept of like how much can he save? Because I thought initially that he was through his actions actually driving people to that thing.
Do Bobby's.
This one?
Yeah.
Elvis
did kind of show signs that Stormy was going to die.
Elvis was sad. He was sad and kind of sympathetic toward Odd. But like I initially,
oh gosh, Adam was furious.
I was so upset because like when he had the conversation with Viola, and they're talking about, like, Viola's talking about her dream, and she's like, I don't know where it is, but I see the same people. I see the green shirt and the khaki pants. And he's like, well, what are your plans? She's like, well, I'm going to go to the movies, and then we're going to go to the mall
or the diner.
We're going to the movies in the diner. He was like, don't do that. And she was like, okay, we'll just stay at home. He's like, don't do that either. And I was like, well, she's taking her kids to the birthday party. They're going to go to the bowling alley. If they don't, I was like, tell them not to go to the bowling alley. And they never did that. And I was very upset. Because that's when I thought that, like, Odd, through his actions, was actually like putting the pieces in place for this thing to actually happen, and he was going to be super tragic at the end because like through his interference he was actually making it come true to where these people were going to die, which could also be an interesting story. But like yeah, that's what that was about. What were we talking about? But you know, there's just so much happened throughout the book, or throughout this one nighttime, and Bob Robertson ended up being kind of a MacGuffin.
Mm-hmm.
I would say didn't really expect that.
I didn't expect it, but I wasn't surprised. Like it wasn't like he's dead. But yeah, so he ended up being a MacGuffin. He's like, there's more than one. They're working together. And then he was kind of left with no clues. He had nothing to go on. And so fast forward a little bit. This is also where I thought that. So he went to visit his parents, and there was some stuff that happened in between. Right?
Well, this was an incredibly long day. A day with way too many hours in it.
It's more long night than anything else.
Well, yeah, he went to see his dad because he knew he needed to see his mom, but he didn't want to.
Yeah.
And they had a bizarre conversation. His dad, who is currently making a living by selling real estate on the moon.
Yes.
And then he talked himself into going to see his mom. So he did.
And his parents, yes, as Leanne says, his parents were pieces of work for sure.
Yeah.
Especially his mom. Like his dad is just kind of a sleazeball. His mom, on the other hand, is insane.
Yeah.
Well, I feel really grateful for my parents.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
it made me feel just really sad for him. And like, how did he turn out to be such a like nice person who like cares about people with those two as parents?
And the amount of trauma that was inflicted on him by his mother alone.
Well, even like talking about his grandma, he's clearly still, he doesn't want to even think too hard about it because he knows that
he can't reconcile.
Yeah, even that's not great.
Yeah. So he goes to see his parents, and then he just kind of goes on like
It's true.
It is.
That is true. But like then he goes on his, what is it, PMS?
Alex asked, she didn't really see the point of visiting his mom. What did he get from that? And it's because of the trauma of her always threatening to kill herself or shoot herself in the chest. He like blocked out the wound on Fungus Man, and so it made him get past that block and realize that there was something to see that he wasn't seeing.
What was the thing?
It was the tattoo. It wasn't POL, was it?
Right.
It was Prince of Darkness, POD maybe?
Well, for the Fungus Man wound, it was Father of Lies.
Oh,
it was
FIL.
I was gonna say, yeah, I thought it was FOL.
FOL.
FOL, yeah.
Because they all had some acronym that meant Satan or something like that.
Well, and going back to his dad, the fact that he wasn't willing to tell his dad about his gift because he knew his dad would sell it. Yeah.
But then what is it? The psychomagnetheric slime?
Psychic magnetism? No, what are you talking about?
Psychomagnetheric slime. It's mood slime. It's found underneath the city, and it leads
gosh.
right to Vigo, the Carpathian.
Focus.
I think the moral of the story, according to Bobby, is if you see a dead Bobby, oh my gosh, yikes. If you see a dead body,
sounds like a threat.
Look at the boobs.
Yeah, there you go.
So says Bobby.
You take anything away from Literally Wasted.
No, I hate it. I hate that I even said it out loud. Erase.
Well, I hate that, Dan. We'll have Wi-Fi on the moon soon.
Okay, but here, so my brain's running really slowly, and for the first half of this message, the comment, I started to get really upset.
Oh.
And then it's fine. I should probably drink some coffee.
I think that Comcast is on the moon, if I'm not mistaken.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, they can get like really slow internet. But so the PMS that started sort of driving him towards like the climax of the story. That's when I felt like, oh,
It's a funny sentence.
we're just kind of inventing something that kind of came out of nowhere to get him to the end. I felt like that was a little bit of a, for me, it was a little bit of a cheat code.
Well,
if
he
you will.
found the card in Fungus Man's wallet also.
Yes, he did. But I feel
And
like
visited the DJ, the blind DJ.
Yes, but I feel like that information enough was not enough to tell you who else is involved. I guess he kind of remembered the tattoo on Varner, but it drove him to the. That's how he ended up at the mall. Was just like intuition, this like extra sensory
Psychic magnetism.
psychomagnetheric
Psychic magnetism.
slime.
No.
I want put Katie's comment up there. Someone pronounce his aunt's name for me, because in my brain, every time I saw the name, my brain wouldn't do it, and my brain would just go and keep going.
Mine does too.
It would just skip over it.
I think
Did anyone listen to the audiobook?
I think I read it as Simri, but I'm sure that it's not that.
No,
I want to read it.
My brain was like Camry.
Simrai.
Oh, and in
Simri.
Discord, someone posted a video of someone singing a song with the word Bodoc in the title, and so you can hear her pronounce the word Bodoc. And
Bodoc.
It's not how I would have done it.
So good. Everyone else's brain pronounced it correctly, and my brain saying.
Yeah, I looked at it and it just my brain did the same thing as yours. I went over, my brain would get to that word and would just go.
Audiobook said it Simred.
Simred.
Simri. Simred.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh, Simri. That was a typo. Simri. Jamie said Simri.
Simri. But yeah, that's to me was a point in the book where I felt like it was a bit of a cheat code to get him to the final act, which is, I didn't take me out of the story or anything like that, but it did seem to kind of come out of nowhere and just kind of, after all this sort of meandering and like digging up kind of clues, it was like, whoop, here we are to the end.
Well, that psychic magnetism is really powerful.
Apparently.
Like, that's amazing. Like, he just has to think of, what is it, a name or like a face, and he can go towards it.
Where was that before?
What do you mean?
I don't know. But yeah.
I did want to bring up, just because it really connected. It was something that he said in the beginning. So honestly, I didn't really there was definitely some heavy stuff in the book right away, but I was so jumpy the whole time he was like going through the house, like going through Matchbox 20 Bobberson's house. And because like the whole thing about losing his senses, like not hearing anything, all of that stuff. And like, I could feel it weighing on me as I was reading. But he said this thing about, and I think it's so applicable to this book, and I'm sure like it's the point, it's like hitting me right in the face. But he talks about how he's not scared about stuff about the unknown. Like his curiosity, like his whole thing, he talks about like, when you watch a scary movie and you're like, get out of the house. And he keeps going because he's not scared of the unknown. He's not scared of the supernatural. It's the real stuff. It's the stuff that it's the dangers that you can clearly see that are real, that are the most terrifying. And that is absolutely this book for me. Like, It was a lot more. It was too real, and that's, I think, really what freaked me out.
Yeah,
it was quite descriptive, and
which I didn't need. I feel like, I will say, there was, when I started to get annoyed with some of the things that I didn't want to read, just because I knew like my brain was like, I don't want to see this. I like had like a marker in my brain as an editor where I was like, you don't need these adjectives and I'm cutting out these lines. Like this was superfluous and unnecessary and I don't want it. This book could have been a lot shorter without these things. But I think that was just how my brain was trying to cope with some of the material.
Let's talk about this.
Like, okay, I'm going to ask y'all. So no one say anything yet because I don't want anyone to put it in the comments if people aren't okay with it.
No spoilers for the rest of the series.
Like, I want to know if it comes back in the series or is mentioned again, because it'd be really really, really, really strange for it to not. But I also understand if there are people who are going to keep reading, like not wanting to know yes or no either way. But I think it'd be really confusing and weird for it to not be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Well, another thing that people in Discord were talking about was the tarantula and the coyotes and their behaviors. Odd specifically said that they didn't make any sense that they were acting that way because that tarantula was like stalking him. And there was no explanation.
And it's like making me twitchy.
Yeah, I think
the
sentence,
it's the ceiling you should be scared.
And then he licked me was probably one of the most disturbing things I've ever read in my entire life, especially considering what he was licked by.
Yep.
That to me,
I had to read that twice. I was like, what?
I made this face.
You made that face in a meeting earlier today.
Well, there was a tarantula coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, he said it's not a coincidence, but then never talked about it ever again. And like, is that a thing with the Odd Thomas books? Or is this stuff that we're going to revisit? Is this like foreshadowing on some other stuff that's later in the series? I'm really curious to find out.
Well, I guess you have to read the series.
Yeah,
like
guess
when
I will.
well, you can borrow it. I have it all. So just come on over and get it. When I first read it, like before I made it any further, the only thing that I could think about,
turkeys could fly.
Because I was like, what the crap is going on? And when he was in the house, and then like when the like 150 or who knows how many like Bodaks were zooming out the house, and then he went back in the room, wasn't black anymore. I was like, oh my God, was it them? Was he like walking through them? Were they all like crammed in that room and creating some sort of weird space or whatever? Like, because it was all full of them, but I don't know. Like,
I was expecting Fungus Man to be some kind of like time traveling wizard or like alien creature. So I was expecting him to be inhuman. I mean, he kind of was in a different sort of way, Fungus Man. But I was expecting, because of that room, like that he had some sort of device in there, or like that he was like, I expected that to be part of his plot or like the plan or something like that. but it wasn't. He was just some kind of psycho wannabe Satanist or whatever that had a fetish for mass murderers.
I need y'all to stop talking about the lick in the comments.
But yeah, that was one of their theories. Wasn't it Stormy's theory that it was like the gateway to hell or something like that? I like the other theory better, the one about people from the future coming, Bodaks or people from the future coming back to get some sick thrills.
Going back to talking about his family, Leanne says she wants to know if Aunt Cinnabon also has the power, which I love that as her name, but he thinks that she probably does. Because what didn't her mom, he said his mom like called her an angel and had a gift, right?
Yeah. But
she's in some sort of institution. I bet you see more of her. I bet you see her at some point.
I do like how some of the ghosts had a sense of humor.
But he did not. He hated that.
Yeah,
I liked it.
It is wild imagery though to picture the ghost holding his severed arm and like scratching his back and seeing odd and like picking his nose with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't tell if my body was like, do I want to laugh or do I want to barf? Like, I think
Maybe
this
kind of a
is
laugh
really,
barf.
it's really grossing me out because
What would a
there's
laugh barf sound like?
because when
Let's
you
not.
describe the body too much, then it borders on mental zombies for me. And there was a lot of stuff in this book that was dancing all over the line. But that's
Oh, did we
besides
dance on the zombie
point.
line?
I
No, it was
No.
ghosts.
You know, ghosts are clearly dead. Zombies are undead.
well, let's not talk about November then yet, because technically that's a zombie book.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah. You got me.
it's fine. We don't have to talk about it yet.
I didn't even think about that until just now. Whoops.
I did.
It's a man-made zombie.
What is
Okay,
versus
wait.
a what?
Versus is just a rising from a virus.
Yeah, virus or bacteria. But let's go back to Odd
Okay,
Thomas.
sorry. Yes.
Oh, I thought it was really interesting how the Bodaks were like intelligent and were like actively trying to fool Odd. Because they weren't around the Simon Varner and Bern Eccles. They were like intentionally trying to like mislead him, and that's just fascinating to me.
It kind of infers awareness of Odd and his ability to see them, even though Odd tried to do his best to make sure that they didn't know he could see them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't like that. Don't want the spooky, scary entities to be aware.
There's a lot of things in this book that seem to be abandoned without reason. The Black Room, the Coyotes, the English Boy.
Oh yeah, the English boy.
What's
Where he
that?
got Bodaks from.
What's the English Boy?
But it's someone that has the same ability as him who called
yeah.
those things Bodaks and then immediately got hit by a car or something and died.
It was the truck. He got
Yeah.
smushed between a truck and a wall.
We got Final Destination.
That's why Odd doesn't want the Bodaks to realize he sees them. Is because he thinks that the Bodaks caused that.
That is a good point, Christopher. He does say that in the very beginning. He talks about how he's an unreliable narrator.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Everybody is.
Well,
So me.
Kelly noticed my face. Look, this book is not. I can't help my face.
Amanda says, I wonder if members of the coven could see the Bodaks. I don't think so. But
No, I don't think so.
it was interesting that, like, wait, the Black Room wasn't this. Was the Black Room the same room as the shrine to the serial killers?
Yep.
That was like very different than the rest of the house.
Mhm.
Yes. The clean room.
The clean room.
That's so creepy, but I feel like that's very in character for like really disturbed people.
To be clean.
To have like
This makes me feel better about my house.
no, to have like have most of their house be something that they don't care about, but then having like the shrine to their obsession like immaculate.
Oh no, I'm a crazy person.
No, I've seen your office. It's
It's
not immaculate.
It's getting there.
It's not immaculate.
It's a shrine.
It
I
is
don't
a
have seen my
shrine,
house,
but
and I
it
have
is
seen your
not
house.
immaculate.
And we are all nice, not serial killer people. Thank goodness. It would really put a damper on our friendship if one of us was a serial killer.
I did kind of feel like cheering a little bit, even though he'd already killed 3 people when the guy walked out in full like tactical gear, and I just like baseball batted him.
Oh yeah, I love that he didn't do anything real stupid during that, and I really appreciated that. He like didn't hesitate. He got a bat and he like just bashed that dude
It's like,
in the
this
face.
guy's coming out. I'm swinging at whatever comes out of this
Yep.
door. And he just went for it. I was like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
get him. And then he had to try to shoot the other guy with a gun through a swarm of Bodaks.
And he hates guns
He hates
and has
guns.
very bad aim.
Apparently has very bad aim.
But I mean, he saved so many people. What I thought was super interesting about this awful, awful event was that there was 3 gunmen, which is enough on its own. But then like
There was 2 and a driver.
Okay, 2 gunmen and a driver. But then he goes down to the truck and finds the bomb that is like,
Oh yeah, the bomb.
yeah, that would have been the source of the real devastation, because they even said like if that bomb had gone off, like hundreds of people would have died. Like,
I forgot. I forgot about the bomb.
yeah, the bomb was like, to me, like, oh shit, like that was scary. Like, shooters are scary and awful, but then that bomb just
It was all scary.
is horrifying.
It
Yeah,
all made me not want to leave my house.
that's fair.
But yeah, I was like, talk about escalation of the climax. There, you had like the one shooter which he dispatched easily, and I'm like, it was too easy. There's got to be another one. And then they have kind of a big moment where he's got to face his fears and have a gun and do all the things, and the guy's shooting up the ice cream store where Stormy's getting it,
where he almost called her on the way and told her to like move, but he decided he couldn't.
And then after all that, there's a bomb in the truck. I was like, okay.
No, his magnetism thing is like making him go away from the ice cream store because there's something bigger happening.
Yeah, he was going to go check on Stormy.
Yeah.
But he went and found the truck full of bomb and pulled the wires whilst getting shot.
That was his second shot, I think. He got shot twice, and like as he was falling, he like ripped out the wires.
And then poof, bomb's disarmed. But it was a lot of like sort of, I think the depictions of the psychopath, serial killer, Satanist people, the characterizations of these people, the descriptions of like what their spaces look like and what their collections, that I think was the most disturbing part to me, was like trying to get into the minds of these people.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the freezer.
The freezer full of boob.
Yeah.
We don't have to. It's fine. We all know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel good when you read that.
No.
But yeah, like I think that was probably the most disturbing part to me. Was all just the mindset of getting into these. Expected Elvis to come back.
Well, and what Alex is saying.
This.
Yeah. They expected a ghost to help him at the end, like guide him to the right place to stop the bad guy or something. And that's a super interesting take. And that makes total sense based on the rest of the book. Like, that's his power, right? Is like talking or seeing ghosts and being able to help them. And it's really fascinating that the ghosts had nothing to do with the actual
That's true.
climax and bad stuff.
Yeah, seeing ghosts didn't really help him much.
No. I mean, he had the magnetism thing and
the dreams.
And he's really good at lockpicking. Yeah, the dreams.
He had the dreams, but it had nothing to do with like the ability to see things, seeing ghosts that other people can't see. I guess it was more about the Botox than it was the actual ghost. Mm-hmm. It was more about his ability to say like, that person has a few Botox around him. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, I see a dead person, like in the beginning, like with Harlow and Penny, like that was a whole.
Yeah, the way. Sorry.
No, you say.
It's just, you're right. That's the way the entire book is set up. Like, because of how it starts immediately with this story and this action. I like how you kept using the word gripping, because it is. You don't want to say, like, there is something it's jarring and it's dark and it's difficult to read, but it immediately grabs you because of that, unfortunately. And it sets up this tone, that like I expected moving forward. Okay, there's going to be a lot more of that. And then we didn't. Like, it starts out with seeing all these ghosts and chasing people down, and then where'd they go?
Yeah. So he really only helped 2 ghosts. He helped Penny at the beginning, and then he tried to help the prostitute.
He just tried to talk her out of sticking around. Which maybe she left.
Maybe.
And And I guess he helped Stormy at the end.
Or she helped him.
She helped him. This is how I was expecting it to play out, which it didn't. I was expecting him to wake up in the hospital and like see Stormy there and be like, Stormy, I'm so glad you're here. And then she couldn't talk. And he was like, oh no. He would have been like, oh no. That's how I was expecting it for him to realize she was dead. Not for him to go through this like extreme denial only to. We haven't talked much about the ending.
The thing is, I think what you expected to happen is exactly what actually happened. And he was doing some therapy when he wrote the end of this book. I mean, he even said at the end, he's like, I took some liberties.
Yeah. But that was, you know, like, it's like at the end of the movie, The Ring.
No.
Where
no,
you,
we're not.
you
No, we're not going to talk about more scary things. You pick one, and you stick with it. Okay?
The Ring?
Because I'm having to sleep in a basement all by myself, and no, I just won't.
This is not about what this is more about the
I'm gonna take
structure.
if you talk about The Ring, I'm going to take my earbuds out.
This is just about the structure of the movie, where like the big thing happens at the end, and you're like, oh, this is the end of the story, and everything. There's kind of an epilogue here. There's like people are like, you know, everything's coming down. Like you're like you're just like you're settling. You're like, okay, the scary is over, and it's not. It's not over.
Get away. Back up.
And then the movie's like, we got one more. It's like a Steve Jobs press conference where it's like, oh yeah, one more thing. It's not an iPhone.
What a weird metaphor. Just compare this to Steve Jobs.
On there.
If that ending had been in any other book, it would have been far more depressing because he may have been losing his mind with her.
Oh, I meant the other Dan. But yeah, no, this one's good too.
Oh, this one? All the times Odd tells us the phone is ringing because of reporters, when in fact it was his friends worried all along. The fact that he kept telling us that, and then the Stormy did this and Stormy did that without quoting her. He knew. He just wasn't ready to let her go. Yeah, I mean, he did seem like overly into it, like at the end, like he was like compensating for something.
That was his reward for the trying time and surviving and all of that.
I mean, he was a hero.
I'm sure he doesn't think so.
No, he doesn't. But he did end the book with, and I am at peace.
But is he lying?
Is
He's an unreliable narrator.
Is anybody really at peace?
No. I'm going to watch so many cat videos before bed, Brandy. All of them. The whole internet's worth of cat videos.
I really did like the way Odd communicated with other people. Like his relationship with the chief. We haven't talked about the chief at all. Oh my gosh, when the chief almost died, I was really upset. Like when he got the information that like the chief has been shot.
Well, the chief was his father figure.
Yeah. Chief Wyatt Porter.
What a great intro, though. I will say, I do like the way Dean introduced us to a lot of these characters, like in a very clear, like you're going to care about this person kind of way. Like the whole like breaking the Barney chair and then being like, oop, that got busted in the like the tussle, right? And then going downstairs and being like, please tell me how much the chair cost. I broke it.
Oh
like,
yeah, that was so charming. I loved that.
Yeah, like he just, so I do, and I think it probably was Dan who said initially when we said we were doing this book that Dean Koontz is good at making you care about character. He's good at character work. And I can see that.
These were all pretty fully realized characters.
Well, and going back to the relationship with Chief, Alex said, I think one of my favorite Odd Thomas isms right now is his relationship with the police chief. How their conversations will be like, there's a mass murder about to happen. We have to act right now or we'll all die. Also, the wife's food is so delicious. You really missed out. Like, I love their back and forth. It was so great.
Yes. Yeah, the chief got taken out
Yeah, it's nice.
I'm glad the chief didn't die.
Yeah, Dan, I like this too.
Yeah, we don't need that origin story there.
Yeah. No,
Batman
everything's
trying to
pretty
convince
well
Commissioner Gordon he's
established.
an all right
Yeah.
guy. Don't need that.
And Odd has a gift for having relationships with people, like with little Ozzy and with what's her name, Terry, who owns the
diner.
the diner, and with the chief, and he just has awesome relationships with people. Even his landlady
Oh, the always convincing her that she's not
has to tell
invisible.
her every
Oh God,
day.
but her story too. Like, gosh, everything.
Mhm.
Everything's
I
pretty
don't-
tragic.
I don't think I want to. And knowing that these are like the least dark of his books, I don't know that I want to.
And Natalie, yeah, this freaked me out. I did not like that.
I didn't like that either. When they were like checked on them when they were
There was
sleeping.
like one over each of them, and then another one that was just slithering under their beds.
Yuck.
Yeah, yuck. That is the correct word.
And you want to talk about the ring?
Ugh!
When we talk about the ring, let me know. I don't do this lightly. This movie traumatized me when I saw it on October 31st, 2002 in the movie theater.
I don't know how many times I've had to hear this story.
It's part of who I am. It's a core memory.
Can you imagine how a movie that's so scary that it freaked me out and I didn't even watch it? I didn't even watch it. I just listened to it. The back of my head watched it and it still gave me nightmares.
But now it's like VHS tapes aren't even a thing anymore.
That makes them scarier.
No, I have a healthy respect for the ring. I just never want to watch it ever again.
Well, yeah.
No.
I've seen it many times.
You have. So in Discord, Leanne said his plots used to be things like monsters, science gone wrong, the duality of human beings and human nature, how we can be both noble at our best and monstrous at our worst. And I want to read all of that. So I would love some recommendations. Actually, like if I'm going to read another Dean Koontz book that's not Odd Thomas, where should I start with that is the goal?
They did upload the ring video to the internet, and I'm not going to watch it. There was like a deleted scene where they had the videotape show up in a Blockbuster, which but also isn't a thing anymore. Anyway, look, we made it to 8:29. Final thoughts. You're going to keep reading the series, Talia? You're going to read it tonight as you're drifting off to sleep?
No.
I think I could keep going with the series if I was.
You can borrow mine. I'm
Um,
not gonna need it for a while.
I am definitely gonna read them all. I think
You
I
can
want to
borrow
finish.
mine.
I want to finish the Dresden Files because while they weren't similar, I did get kind of the vibe, and it made me want to go back and finish those, which I need to anyways.
I do love the Dresden Files.
It's like this is to the Dresden Files as the Magicians is to Harry Potter.
Maybe.
Um,
Oh, and I did read. If anybody can say about it or speak on it, it's important to read Odd Thomas first in the series, but then after that, you can kind of like skip around.
What?
Apparently, well, I read it on the internet today, so who knows?
Benny, you were so quiet the whole stream. I
someone's
forgot you were
waking
there.
Benny, hi. Welcome to the live discussion. What did you think of Odd Thomas?
He didn't like it either.
Yeah,
Listen.
I know. You and Talia had the same reaction.
No.
But it's not like I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. You know what I mean?
Bye bye. Oh wait. Nope.
Is he pooping? So Benny has lots of things to say here. There he goes.
So
Bye, Benny.
important things for November. The club meeting will be on November 15th, and then the discussion of Frankenstein, which is a zombie book, will be
Frankenstein.
will be on November 29th.
November 29th, Frankenstein. We had a lot of people It won the poll, but then we had a lot of people being like, no.
There's some strong opinions on Frankenstein, which should lend itself for a very interesting discussion.
Which, if anything, even if you plan on skipping out on Frankenstein, come join the live discussion to watch Talia talk about a zombie book.
Alex, I am never expecting zombies. That's what makes them so terrible.
So, yes, while Benny is talking, Leanne will continue her live reading in the lounge right after the discussion ends.
Dan, you're fired.
Night in the Lonesome October. He's still talking.
Yeah.
There he goes.
He has a lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions.
And Brandy loves some Frankenstein.
I will say, if you go to the Amazon store, I actually put both. I mean, there's like a bajillion different versions, right? Or like different publications of it. But I did put two in there. I put the 1818, like the original, and then I put the edited one, which was 1839 or 41. I don't remember. The latter.
I plan on reading the original version.
Yeah. So anyways, well, Bethany says to get the 1818. So that is one of the options in there. And I think I'm kind of interested, like, I think people just get whichever one they want to read. And if nothing else, that'll lend to an even more layered discussion of people who hate it, people who were reading it for the first time, people who love it, people based on like whatever version they read, like, well, I mean, everyone's saying 1818, but should you not, I'm interested to know what the differences are.
Yeah, I would also be interested to know what the differences are. Bobby says, let's get all the different versions and see how it translates. I have never read this book. The only Frankenstein media that I have, there's two things that I have consumed, and one of them is Young Frankenstein, and the other is The Monsters. So
yep. Oh, I have.
I'm going to this with very specific expectations.
My favorite is I have Monster Bash, the pinball machine, in my basement, and I like the Frankenstein multi-ball. So that is that's my biggest connection with Frankenstein, probably.
Yeah, if he's anything like Herman Munster, we're in for a fun time. Munster's solid television. It's one of those shows you look back on and you're like, how did this ever get made? Something like that would never get made today, and that's a shame.
You know what my favorite part about the Munsters is? Well, there's a lot of great things, but one of my favorite things about the Munsters is the set. The entire set, everything, all of the things was pink. It was all pink because that was what showed the best versions of gray that they wanted. So a lot of the Munster set was actually pretty pink.
Honestly, I kind of want to get like if the Munsters went on Maury Povich, because like, what is going on? There's a Frankenstein and a vampire, and they have a wolf boy. What is the genetic? What in the genetics is going on here?
I don't think that's any of our business.
Well, it's Maury Povich's business. Herman Munster, you are not the father.
Well,
the Munsters. So that's what I'm expecting out of this book.
The Munsters level of intrigue.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm just going to picture Fred Gwynn as Herman Munster as the monster, or Peter Boyle from Young Frankenstein singing Putting on the Ritz.
I do. That is my favorite version.
That's your favorite version?
Yes.
With Gene Hackman, the monk.
I mean, it's Mel Brooks. Like, what's not to like?
Right? But that about does it for us here on Literarily Wasted. Odd Thomas.
We did it.
We did it. Happy October, happy Halloween. Please post pictures of all your costumes and whatever you're doing in the Literarily Wasted Lounge or on
And
Discord. We want
eat
to see
lots of candy.
everything. Eat all the candy, and please join us for our club meeting and our live discussion of
November 15th and 29th.
Frankenstein in November. We got an extra little kind of a spooky something or other, I guess, for November.
Ah!
Bye, everybody. See you next time on
Bye.
Literarily Wasted. Go watch